Good afternoon, everybody. It's October 19th and it's Sunday, and I'm out here walking around surprising people because I'm speaking a different language here. So, cold day, not really cold, cold enough. I'm going to try to make it to some woods, see what it's like there right now. It's probably most of the leaves are gone like in this area. But let's get into the news right away. How does that sound? Okay. As about everybody in this channel knows, and a lot of these other channels where people like to tell the truth a lot more than, say, the mainstream, if you call it mainstream or you call it the corporate media, Israel was never intending on keeping this peace or ceasefire, whatever you want to call it, or a ceasefire leading to a peace. They had no plans of doing any such thing. So it looks like it's already violated. But in a sneaky Israeli way. You know, it's as a matter of fact, there are Israelis, and they even come right out and they admitted this. They admitted this, I think it was even 2 days ago. They said what they're going to do is, it's absolutely unbelievable. They can even say this stuff. They can say this stuff, people in the government, and then people still, we didn't see this coming. They said that they're going to do, all they have to do is go into the area close to Gaza or within Gaza, fire off a couple rockets into Israel proper, and then say that Hamas is violating the ceasefire. So that's exactly what they did. Look at these beautiful colors of leaves here. Too bad it's probably not going to come out as nice as it actually does look here in reality. But there was some sort of a only apparent breach of the ceasefire by Hamas. But there was a big breaches of the ceasefire by Israel. And of course everybody just kind of ignores that. And not one Israeli was harmed in any way, shape, or form. Nobody, I don't think, even has any evidence of where this breach happened. I don't think that even Hamas denies it, that there was some sort of a breach, but it wasn't done by Hamas. It was done, obviously, and we're going to find out here, it was done by criminal gangs hired by people within the Israeli government to do this. They were paid and given the weapons and everything. I mean, that's exactly how they do things all the time. By way of deception, thou shalt create war. Who said that? Where did that come from? Oh gosh, that's an Israeli intelligence. The Mossad, that's the motto of the Mossad. In other words, they're going to do things such as false flags, lies, do anything in order to create war. And I think it was Nietzsche that said, out of chaos comes order. And it's kind of similar to saying, out of war comes profit. In the old, I don't know, I don't want to say Jewish, but there are Jews that do think that way. And I'm not saying all of them, and I would say a very large number of them. I don't want to be picking on Jews in general, because I'll tell you what, the mess that this world gets into, I'll tell you, I believe that the Jews, almost more than anybody, are going to be instrumental in trying to help alleviate all the problems that we have. So that's a kind of weird thing to say, especially when, to a large extent, they're the ones that get us into the problems. So it's what is that? So am I anti-Semitic, or what am I? What does that make me? Very strange. Maybe I am a really strange bird. Strange bird. Look at this. That's why there's feathers laying around all over here. Must have been another strange bird. Okay. So in the past hours, Israel again bombed Gaza. So as of this message right here, I think less than 2 hours ago, they bombed Gaza again. You know, so the war is on, baby. The war is on. It's coming back. It's going again. Jeez. So anyway, Hamas has, of course, denied any breach of this ceasefire. I tell you what, for some odd reason, I actually believe Hamas, and I always do anyway. I tell you what, who do you think is more honest as far as trends are concerned, and evidence, based on evidence from what all of you have probably seen, any of you, a lot of you are older people, and if you've been watching the news for many, many years, let's go back many decades. Let's go decades. You know, I don't go back to the 50s. When did I start being interested in watching the news? I started, you know, getting inklings a little bit back in the 1980s, but normally since 9/11, of course, I started getting more and more interested in watching things and trying to keep track of what's going on. And Israel, they do a lot of nasty things, and they use the same playbook over and over and over again. We're all supposed to act like it's all legitimate. That's really terrible. And of course they want that land. They want to expel all the Palestinians. They've tried to come up with no right of return, and they've been doing this stuff over and over again for a long time. And of course it started at the very latest, you could say 1948. It's not 3,000 years like Donald Trump says. You know, maybe there's some sort of a form. There's always been fight. What are you going to say? Oh, there's fighting between the French and the Germans for a long time. They don't have it anymore. What about the Spanish and the British? You know, so I don't think that really exists anymore. But it's not. It wasn't. And the state of Israel today is not the Israelis of the past. These are all supplanted people from mostly Europe. As a matter of fact, also from Belarus, even from Canada, a lot of places, and they all moved there and militarized. It's not like the people from Ukraine came from anywhere else, but they're heavily militarized as well, and in large part from the United States, as you all know. Gosh, I don't know. And most of this is these intelligence agencies. That's the ones that fall for all of this hatred for the most part. It's absolutely terrible. And you got the three worst ones. The partners in crime, you got the Mossad, the CIA, and the MI6, more than anything else. And you have to, if you've been watching at some times when you find some, what do you call it? I can think of the German word, Lösung, some the solving of a lot of these problems. A lot of times, like even in the Middle East, strangely enough, it's like the Iranian intelligence that actually solves the thing. And they solve it in a very, very good way. And they get people to actually get up there and admit what they were doing, even if they know they're getting the death penalty. There was some terrorist paid off by, I guess they said, NATO. And that could mean, in large part, probably either the British or the Americans, you know, the CIA. Oh God. And then you start keeping track of all the stuff that goes on. It's absolutely sickening. It's absolutely sickening seeing how these people engineer these wars and people killing each other, all for the sake of profits and things. That's, anyway. Let's not even talk about it. So, Israel, they've already killed 38 people. 38 people in like, what, 2 days? And 0 Israelis have been killed. 0 Israelis have been injured. But yet Hamas is the one that broke the ceasefire. That's really strange. That's really strange, isn't it? So Hamas broke the ceasefire, and no Israeli has ever even been in danger of getting harmed. But yet Hamas broke the ceasefire. Yeah. Hamas is saying the ceasefire violation that they are being accused of is actually criminal gangs recruited and paid by Israel. Not only that, the U.S. State Department, and you know, the usual partners in crime too. And it's much like, I'm going to be even mentioning him, it's Mike Pence. Mike Pence, he was in one of these no kings things, but I'll get to that very, very soon here. So, and he was in the State Department, and he has revealed lots and lots of dirty stuff. The State Department is sort of like the CIA in a lot of ways, doing really nasty, nasty things. So, but let's keep going on this stuff. So, the State Department, what did they say? Their words were, they're warning of an imminent ceasefire violation by Hamas. By Hamas. You know, that's an imminent ceasefire. It's very strange, very, very strange. So how do they know that? Because Israel told them that, you know. Where do they always get their information? Where does Donald Trump get his information? He gets it from either Zelensky, you know, when it has to do with Russia and Ukraine, And then when it's in the Middle East, he gets it from Israel. You know, incredible. It's he'd be much better off trying to get his information from Iran if he wants to talk about what's going on between Israel and Hamas. But of course, you know, he's pretty much soured that. It's not going to happen. So contrary to the agreement, Israel is keeping the Rafah crossing closed. They're not letting aid even come through there. I don't know where they're having things. Maybe this Philadelphia corridor, maybe there are some places there where they allow some aid to be coming through it into Gaza, but I guess the Rafah crossing, which is the main one, and that is where the bigger roads are, and that's where they can get in equipment to clear the rubble, and that's blocked. So they're blocking equipment to come in and clearly, or at least more quickly, clear the rubble. They're using what they've got, and they do have some equipment of their own, I guess, that maybe came in the meantime. But, man. So they're trying to hinder any kind of recovery of Gaza as of yet. I don't know. Makes you wonder if Donald Trump, the peacemaker, he's going to come in there and start kicking some butt. You would think he would. I don't know. It's very difficult to tell how serious Donald Trump is. And he brags about the fact that he is a huge supporter of Israel, that he's on the side of Israel. So, I don't know, you know? It makes you wonder, is he on the side of humanity, on the side of right, rather than on the side of wrong? Or is he on the side of Israel in this instance? I guess time will tell. If they start more than what the State Department is already doing, accusing Hamas, if they start doing more, then you know that what's going on here. And it's, I don't know about Donald Trump, what his complicity is in all of this, but obviously we'll find out probably very, very soon, and very certainly that the State Department has people involved in that. Well, I'm guessing. So, anyway, State Department. It's like they're saying that Hamas is planning a false flag and they're going to kill their own people. So, the people that they have sworn to protect, that they have given, many of them have given their lives, thousands and thousands of them have given their lives to protect Gaza and its people, and now they're going to kill their own people? Now you saw this little video. I don't really understand what that is, but it was apparently, I don't know if it's even legitimate. I haven't heard much of anything besides seeing the little video, and it apparently showed some Hamas executing some Palestinians, and obviously that would have been people that collaborated with Israel, if that actually did happen. And you know, I don't condone anything like that, even if those people did collaborate with Israel. You know, what I would have done, I'm serious about this, even as cruel as this sounds, if it actually did happen, if they did collaborate, they should have probably branded them, put a brand on their face that they collaborated with Israel. So you don't want to kill them, but at least everybody will shun them probably in Gaza, knowing that they're basically traitors. But don't take their life. You know, maybe somebody else that has pity on them can help support them, because I don't know if they're going to get any kind of work. Maybe they're going to be treated more poorly because they're traitors to the people of Gaza. But killing somebody, that's something else. You know, branding is bad enough. You know, like putting a little brand on their face. Nasty stuff. I'm going to go down through this way instead of going over there. It's kind of a steep trail. I was going to kind of check out the woods a little bit here, see how the leaves on the ground are laying. Not many in the trees anymore, as you see. They're doing some construction over there. I didn't show you. I don't know. It's, I believe, a music school. I believe this is a school. I don't know if this is just... Anyway, it's some sort of a music school. And if you remember, or have you ever learned, like in the Soviet times, that the children would go to their regular school, like in the mornings, and maybe both of your parents are working, so they would have another school to go to, whether it's for sports or whether it is for music or something else. And probably that is a holdover from the Soviet times, and probably still to this very day teaches musical skills to people. I'm assuming. It's still kind of nice here. It doesn't come across so nice for you guys, but it's actually very nice walking in here. Beds of leaves. It's like some of this is some 4 or 5 inches thick. Okay. So anyway, so much was blocked. As a matter of fact, when they blocked this Rafah crossing, the Israelis, it's the main crossing to get wounded people and people with malnourishment problems that are nearly dying, to get them to hospitals and to better medical care in Egypt. And Israel blocks that. It's very sad. You have these people that are like this, and they look at other human beings, maybe because of their skin color, their religion, or something like that, and think of them as subhumans. And hey, isn't that what the Nazis kind of said? Anyway, as you know, the term Zio-Nazis, and these are Zio-Nazis. These people are no different than how those people were brainwashed in Germany in the 1930s to believe themselves as being superior, to be the master race. Very much like, trying to tell your people that you're chosen by God, that you're God's chosen. Or even Obama was kind of starting it. And as a matter of fact, I think Joe Biden had his own term. The exceptional people is what Obama said. And what did Biden say? Something very similar. He had to come up with some other different word. But Donald Trump is supposed to be the fascist. But he never came up with anything like that. So that's really weird. So anyhow. Another thing that's blocking in, there's people that are trying to, find people in the rubble, like the dead people, a lot of the dead bodies. And of course, the count of the dead is going to go up horrendously, because there's, I believe, some people are saying there's over 400,000 people missing after all of this bombardment by Israel. And some of the worst bombing in world history, if not the worst. If not the worst bombing in world history is what Israel enacted on these people. To get Hamas, yes. Collective punishment, if you want to say that. Anyway, kill them all, let God sort them out. That was like I said, the expression that they tried to put on us in the military to try to get us to adapt or something. That was during the Cold War days, as you all remember. But, I don't know. So, let's see. 38 Palestinians dead, 143 injured, 0 Israelis dead, 0 Israelis injured, 0, absolutely 0. Property damage, 0. Oh yes, but Hamas are the bad guys and violated the ceasefire. How the heck does that work? It's like some kind of a backward mathematics or something like that. Wow. And Hamas is asking the United States to focus on the ceasefire violations and not occupation rhetoric. So, another thing, Israel yesterday, they demolished a very vital road, mostly vital to children trying to get to school. They didn't say how long this road was or nothing, but it was very vital for, and I guess it was to Bedouin communities to get them into school, and recently repaved, and Israel demolished it all. They completely demolished the entire thing. They're really nice guys, aren't they, in Israel? It's really, I don't know, it's sickening. Here you're supposed to be having peace, and look at all this, but trust us, Hamas are the bad guys. Yeah, there's over 500 children, and where did I get that information? That comes from Haaretz. That comes from an Israeli publication, so to speak. Haaretz.com, Israeli online media. Even I think there's some things that came out from Jerusalem Post. A lot of people in Israel, like I said, there's some good people there, and they're kind of sickened by, Benjamin Netanyahu and all his cliques. And who's this guy? Ben Guyver, I believe. I think he's like national security some sort of thing. He's highly suggesting, he's basically screaming they got to start bombing Gaza again and eliminate all of Hamas, which means all the people of Gaza, because you can't tell who's Hamas and who isn't by looking at them. I see an H on your forehead. You must be Hamas. Yesterday I mentioned this admiral, name not so important, but he's in charge of the Southcom of the United States. You know, he's supposed to be in charge of military happenings in Central America and South America, and there's getting a lot of these reports about the U.S. bombing of these under his command, bombing of these so-called drug boats. And it's coming out that more and more of them are just fishermen. So they bombed this one, and it was all 6 fishermen, and apparently all witness and everybody that knows any of these people, they all said none of these people had anything to do with any drugs. So these were just fishermen. And I've already said to you guys that I was in you know, the Caribbean, and they did run drugs up, and some did come from Venezuela, but I said it yesterday too, but it's just like small amounts. And a lot of this stuff, the big stuff, I think is mostly coming from Colombia, including when the United States was really good friends with Colombia. So they were letting it all come through. And I think a lot of it still does, and it's not like the government doing it. And of course some of these gangs, or what do you call it, cartels, are so incredibly powerful in Central America and all that. There's no way that the government can do anything. And as a matter of fact, in some ways they actually work with the government, and a lot of these drug cartels are the ones that if you want to believe this, they keep the schools renovated. They have more money than the government, so they're doing a lot more for the people a lot of time than the government. And the people that are not involved in the drugs, they don't even dislike a lot of these drug cartels. It's not like those people there are taking the drugs, but they're putting a lot of money into the communities. That's just something for you to know. So it's not a clear-cut definition of these people are bad and these people are good. And I don't know. It's a big mess. And again, a lot of these people, the ones that they're killing, that the United States is killing, it's very strange that most of the reports are coming out that they're not even freaking Venezuelans. There's no Venezuelans. Most of them are from Colombia, and some from Ecuador. It's incredible. So what was this last one? So there's 2 guys that Trump bombed some submarine apparently, you know, bringing fentanyl, I don't know, apparently to the United States. And 2 guys lived, and one guy was from Ecuador, one guy was from Colombia, and they returned them to their countries, not to prison in the United States, not to Venezuela. They returned them to Colombia and to Ecuador. I don't know, did they get a confession? Is there any videotapes of these guys admitting that they were running drugs or anything like that? And no crime punishment? They brought them back to their countries, or did the leaders of the country say they're going to punish them? Or that's all. Some of this stuff just doesn't make any sense. Anyhow, okay, the EU is trying to get involved and get a presence at this Budapest summit that's going to be between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. And I guess they're pushing stubbing. They're stubbing for Stubb. They're stubbing for Stubb from Finland to be there, you know, because he's a diehard Russia-hating guy, and it's incredible. So they're trying to push him to be a part of this, and very strange about this summit. A lot of people are starting to wonder, well, why did they pick Hungary? Why did they pick Hungary? You know, it's like, you know, you see, not necessarily Fico. Fico is actually, he is anti-war. He's an anti-war, and he sees no advantage, not even for the EU, to get involved in this Ukraine war, let alone his own country. And he needs this Russian gas and oil that's coming from there. It's a landlocked country, just like Hungary is. And there's no other option for them except to get this from Russia, from the Russian pipelines. So they want this energy, and in other words, they want to be on friendly terms with Russia. They don't want to step on their feet. They don't want to be enemies or good friends or nothing. They'll go along with the European Union on most things, as long as it's not antagonistic against Russia. So, and they have gone along with some things. Oh, look at the leaves falling. It's like snowing. Oh, wow. Interesting. But, and a lot of people say, well, why not Austria and Switzerland? And then Austria has been allowing the transport of weapons to go to Ukraine using their territory. And they used to have I guess some sort of I don't know if it was a law or at least they had a policy where you can't use Austria to transport weapons, but now they were doing that. And it's very similar to Switzerland. Switzerland is voting against Russia all the time. So you're not supposed to be some neutral country like Austria. They're not neutral anymore. And Finland was supposed to be a neutral country. And of course, then they turned on, and they owe their independence and their sovereignty to Russia. They owe that to Russia. And then they turn on Russia. It's absolutely incredible. And now they want to get into this summit and sabotage it. So now, and they've declared themselves enemies of Russia. And it's, of course, harming their economy greatly, because there was a lot of economic cooperation in the long border between Finland and Russia. But of course, they said, oh, we'd rather, be enemies of Russia for no benefit whatsoever to our country. I don't know. Obviously, some kind of a weird regime change by who and what happened in Switzerland, but I don't know. I'm not privy to how and whatever. And again, there's this person that I'm going to be talking about in a minute. I saw this little video, and it just so happens that Mike Pence, he was in the State Department, the U.S. State Department, very highly intelligent guy, knows a lot about how this stuff happened, and he's a business executive now, but he used to be in the State Department. So I think you can find him there's a really revealing interview by Joe Rogan and Mike Pence. If you maybe can look for that. I didn't actually see it. I just saw parts of it, and it's like your jaw is dropping. The guy's really knowledgeable on what stuff goes on. I probably would have been like that if I would have been kissing the backside of the U.S. government and whatever, and stayed working for them in some certain ways and things. I don't know if that would have worked out that way. Gosh. That, just got a lot of information. Not that I'd be on the side of all the crap they're doing. Anyhow, let's see. Yes. So, another guy that really doesn't like peace at all. And it's very strange. It's kind of difficult to figure out what his angle is most of the time. But everybody knows that his angle is to create big problems. And a lot of people say he wants to mix everybody together so that the elites, so nobody can identify with any kind of a group, and I mean groups like nationalities and a common culture or various cultures. So everybody's going to be mixed, and that's why he's actually trying to push all these immigrants into different countries, including the United States and all throughout Europe, and disrespecting the cultures, especially people that actually hate the countries that they go to. Like a lot of these people, and I don't know, a lot of them are Islamic apparently, and they shoved them into Sweden, and they tried to declare another country within Sweden. Maybe like Chaz in Seattle, remember that one? I think that was during the Black Lives Matter thing. Of course, that's part of his agenda too. Exactly that. Actually involved in that. But I'll get to that. But anyway, that's George Soros. Gorgeous George. And I thought he was supposed to be actually standing down. Klaus Schwab, penetrates the cabinets, then we eat the bugs. And he handed that down to, Larry Finker, no, what's his name? Anyway, the guy from BlackRock. So he's in charge of all that stuff now. The richest entity on planet Earth is the BlackRock Corporation, richer than virtually all countries, to include the entire United States. They are so fabulously rich. They got so much money. Absolutely incredible. And now that guy, he's in charge of the WEF. So, I mean, he's the CEO. I'm not saying he was super rich, even though definitely he was super rich, but not as rich as his company then by that time anyway. So, anyway, it's kind of dark right here. Maybe you can't see me. Let me get over here. Just seeing all the yellow leaves here. Very nice. Okay. But anyway, it's Alexander, his son, who helped, it didn't work, helped Kamala Harris drastically. He's the first one to come out and really support Kamala Harris for what good it did him. Anyway, but they have a lot of control anyway with their Open Society Foundation. So anyway, the recent records, because I'll tell you what's happening right now. Donald Trump, he has put a probe into Alexander Soros mostly because of what Alexander Soros was doing to Donald Trump, trying to sabotage everything and getting protests against him and all that. So there was a probe put in. So what happened recently, just came out here, is this records from the Open Society Foundation of just recently, they show that he has, and just lately, he's put 1.4 billion, not, normally he's up to 20 million here and the millions and stuff like that. But this late one is 1.4 billion. He has been putting, and it's been channeled through his Open Society Foundation, and much of this is going into the U.S. to fight Donald Trump. Of course, it's the records don't say to fight Donald Trump, but maybe they do. I don't know. But anyway, that's what has been coming out, because he's coming up, and of course, a lot of the money is going to these other subgroups that are against Donald Trump and pro-Democrats and leftists and liberals and woke and all that kind of crap, to make sure that everybody gets screwed up, that, maybe for, as a matter of fact, yes, indeed, also for these people that want to get their changes, their sex changes and all that sort of a deal. What a messed up bunch of crap this guy is. Anyway, so there's some going to Africa, and I think a lot of that is obviously to try to counter China and Russia's influence in Africa, amongst other things, And George Soros is also, to a large extent, partnered up with Billy Boy Gates. And, they're such nice guys, and they want to vaccinate these people in Africa, as they did also in India. I mean, gee. And Bill Gates, he's only a big billionaire, but he has got to get the money from another billionaire who gets it from the government for some reason. I was thinking that they cut off George Soros completely, so I don't know where his source of even more money is coming from. Very, 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 very strange. I guess a lot of these Democratic donors, which are the richest ones. I remember back in my day, everybody used to think that the Republicans were the big corporate rich party, and the Democrats beat the Republicans by far. Marian Adelson, I mean, who in the heck was that? Nobody knew who that. And she's, of course, very rich. Her husband died, Sheldon Adelson, but, not as rich as a lot of these other ones. Remember Jeff Bezos? Makes you wonder, is Jeff Bezos, is he actually a supporter of Donald Trump now, or is he half-half? When I was living in the Caribbean, and a lot of times, you're a white person when 96% of the people are black, and then there's like a couple percentages of are Indian descent, and the whites, for the most part, are the smaller ones, smaller percentage, and the whites that are there, there's a few that are very wealthy indeed, very few, but a lot of them, the whites that are there, are this whatever, less than 2% of the people that are white. They're not really that rich or nothing like that, and they're no different really than the black people there, the African descent people that are in that country. But when you get there, they tell you, a lot of the people, the ones with money in the businesses, and it's like I was saying, what the heck? They said, if you're going to give money to both parties. Just give more to the party, political party that is in power. And I was like, I'm not going to friggin' give them any of my money, either one of them, But anyhow, that's obviously how maybe Jeff Bezos and a lot of these other people do. They give it to both, but I'll tell you what, a lot of that is probably done in ways where it's not disclosed, just between you and me, and you all know that too. It's not a secret. So let's see. But you know, you got to have a lot, and you want to use it as tax write-off, so you declare that part. Okay. So what else? Let's see. He's putting money into the climate change BS, you know. So, you know, George Soros, I guess he was one of the main people, I guess, you know, funding like Greta Thunberg. How dare you? You know, that sort of a thing. And birth control. A lot going into birth control. Very strange. Some of these countries, they say that their birth rate is so low, so they're trying to import a lot of foreigners from different countries into their country, and yet they want to fund birth control too. But kind of has a contradictory kind of message being sent there. Do they or don't they? I don't know. And then, so why does George Soros want these people that make a lot of babies and send them into Europe and the United States, but yet he's funding birth control? I don't know. I haven't figured that one out yet. So it seems the big spending comes because Trump's Justice Department is actually the one that put this probe in. I mentioned that already, but I didn't mention it that it's it's from the Justice Department. I guess that's Pam Bondi, as far as I know. So it's not like a lot of people are somehow they're ragging on her quite a bit. I don't know, but anyway, yeah. So anyway, they also mention in this article that that George Soros, he's behind also a lot of funding for these not just political protests and all kinds of protests, Black Lives Matter, all that sort of stuff in the United States, but also in other countries. As you all know, and I've mentioned it before, I think other people have, George Soros was the main guy that was behind the BLM, Black Lives Matter. They killed, for the most part, that was probably the biggest loss of life for black people at any time in the United States. And a lot of children, so a lot of black people got killed. Black Lives Matter. That's why a lot of black lives were extinguished during the Black Lives Matter thing. More sense, I guess. So, yeah. But anyway, I don't know. He's probably also involved in a lot of the trying to overthrow the governments here. Obviously George Soros was the big one of the big guys with the State Department of the United States, with Victoria Nuland, when they overthrew Ukraine. That was the two main factors there that worked and did that, was the teaming up of George Soros and the State Department with Victoria Nuland and all that. And what about Syria? Syria too. Oh, how did I come up with that? Syria, the overthrow of Syria. State Department real big into that. I think there was some kind of assistant deputy secretary or some woman there in Syria. It's on video. I don't know her name. I should find her name, because that's really wicked when you see that. She's sitting up there and she said 1/3 of Syria belongs to the United States. That is the property of the United States, and they're going to keep the other 2/3 of Syria in rubble. They're going to make sure that it stays in rubble. And that's on video. You see this woman saying that. They own it. They own the richest part of Syria, where the agriculture is, where the oil is, where everything is, all the resources, and they're going to keep it, and it belongs to the United States. Just in case you want to know that. But you got to find that. I don't know her name. If somebody out there knows her name, write it in the comments. I want to find that, or maybe even put a link to that video. Very, very revealing. Okay, but okay. So I was mentioning Mike Pence. He's the big former State Department guy, and so he was at one of these No Kings protests, and he was filming it. He was filming U.S. aid people. Yeah, and they even had shirts on. And they're handing out instructions on how to protest, I guess, there. They're probably telling them, oh, don't get violent this time. That's for some future ones. And of course, they did get a little violent in some places. I'm not saying it was from the United States State Department, or I mean from the U.S. aid. But anyway, they are there. They are working there, too. Wow. So none of this stuff has really ended. Uh, so anyway, they're pretty bold. They're pretty bold. They're wearing the T-shirts, and he's smiling, and he's got it. He's filming it, and there's people. They're handing out these things on telling people how to protest against Donald Trump. Absolutely incredible. And but I was going to also say, I wrote that down here too. That wow, this looks like, I guess can't see that older lady. She's behind the tree right now. It's too far away, but she's wearing a dress kind of like the one that sees Hansel and Gretel. She's a stooped old lady with a cane. You guys probably can't see that. There she is now between the trees. Just right out of Grimm's fairy tales. Incredible. So, but what I was going to say, what was I going to say? Where was it? Oh, Donald Trump. You know, you're looking at him with no due process, and he's killing these people on these boats, and then he hasn't even stopped, even after it's been disclosed that a lot of these people were innocent. And there's no due process, and Rand Paul is pretty pissed off about that, saying, you know what, you know, it's not the American way. You're supposed to get your day in court or something like that. Oh wait, they're foreigners. Oh, it doesn't apply to them. As a matter of fact, it doesn't even really apply to the United States a lot of time. A lot of people are, you're considered, in truth, you're considered guilty, and then you got to prove you're innocent. It's not the other way around. It's not innocent until proven guilty. You guys all know that by now. Anybody who's actually been into any kind of a trial or anything like that, and then you get up there, and I've seen it many times. You go to these things, and you just stand up, and they just tell you what you're guilty of, and then they hit the thing and tell you to go off into jail. It's incredible. It's incredible. I've seen it. Like I said, I worked in a prison, and then I was taking some law classes too, and I went to observe sometimes in court and all that sort of a deal. And I don't know, people get framed and all that all the time. Look at how Israel does this. As a matter of fact, what happened to me in the Army one time, I was going to be going to officer candidate school, and I maxed out everything. I was like phenomenal. And there was a captain of the company. He was leaving the company. I don't know, I don't know what they call that, PCSing, permanent change of station or whatever, like we say for us enlisted type peoples. But anyway, a new captain comes in, didn't know me at all, and he was already there, as a matter of fact. But the captain was just, anyway, he said, he looked at my record, he called me in, he said, I've never seen anybody with a record like yours, maxing out the physical fitness test my entire time in the United States Army. Always, I get the President's Medal, consistently, non-stop, always, for physical fitness, like Arnold Schwarzenegger sort of a deal. And, and passing the test, and graduating from the university with Golden Key honors, Phi Alpha Theta, and all that. And he was saying, and he wrote me a really nice, well, I don't think he did, but anyway, he approved on all that. But anyway, then he left, and then there was a guy that I'm supposed to do the physical fitness test to get into officer candidate school. I took the officer candidate school test, and I did better than everybody there. I did really, really good on that. And then anyway, I had to take the physical fitness test, and there's a drill sergeant that hates officers. He hates officers. He even says that. I was thinking it's like an act, and probably everybody thought it was probably an act, because you know how drill sergeants are. So, but anyway, I was sitting there doing these push-ups, and even some lieutenants came by, kind of in training, a guy and a gal, And anyway, I'm doing these push-ups, and then he was ignoring me, so he missed a whole bunch of them. And I don't know, I could do push-ups like nobody could in the company. And even the post commander, that was Fort Gordon, Georgia, he called me in, and he said that he wanted me to do so fantastic on this physical fitness test, to make him look, he didn't say to make him look good, but obviously that's what it was. And anyway, not on that test, but on a different physical fitness test. I could do 2 miles, I think it was 11 minutes. Some people did better than that, of course. And then the sit-ups, pretty good. But push-ups I did really good. And As long as they didn't look at my qualification with an M16, I was never super good on that. You know, luckily that didn't count so much. So, but anyhow, anyway, this guy, I go in there, and this guy lied. I mean, I did the push-ups, and then I said, oh, I thought I did better than that. That's all I said to this. And this guy sat there for a second, this drill sergeant, and then he threw down the pen and stuff and started yelling, "What did you say to me?" And all this, oh gosh. And the lieutenants had already walked by, and they were all the way on the other side of the formation with literally like 170 people, and they were all the way already on the far corner, and they said they heard me saying something to them. But I was doing push-ups while that's when he was ignoring me. He was talking to them while I was doing push-ups, so he wasn't counting them. Oh my God. So anyway, you get screwed over, and that's how that all works. And I don't even know why I was saying this. I was on just telling you guys something about basically how people cheat and stuff like that. A lot of nastiness. And no, I was talking about in the courts. Like you go to a court. So I had to go in front of the company commander, the new captain that didn't know me, and of course he basically, you know, he gave me some kind of it was a company grade Article 15, which, you know, it's kind of a bad mark. Obviously, I didn't go to officer candidate school and things like that, so that kind of made me really sour against the United States Army. It took me a long time. It took me literally over a year to get that back, you know, to have any kind of a faith in the U.S. Army. Since then, I didn't really have any desire to excel. I kept doing good in physical fitness for the most part, but that was for me, not for the Army. So anyway, let's keep going. What else? That's a little bit of making this video a little longer. Let's see here. So yeah, Mike Betts. There's some really outstanding people that sometimes you see on these podcasts, and or other of these truth tellers, people that come out and say some amazing things. Some people, they don't have like some big credentials or something, you know, but they did some fabulous things and all that. I'll tell you what, even Scott Ritter's one. He had a huge job, as you all know, in when he was in the Marine Corps, you know, as a weapons inspector, and they only gave him a major. He was a major? So why is a major? You know, because he was probably doing good, and they didn't promote him. You know, it's probably because he stood up for the truth and for what is right, so they weren't giving him the promotions. He wasn't, what do we say, kissing ass. He wasn't kissing ass so much all the time, and he told things as it was, and he was probably a very good soldier and all that all the time. But, you know, Scotty boy, that's what Biden called him, you remember? Anyhow. Or maybe even Colonel Douglas McGregor. He was actually recognized probably after his military time, and he was like a special advisor to Donald Trump originally, because he's good. He's great. He's intelligent. That's how this is. So it's you can't go by somebody sitting there with a whole bunch of medals on their chest, you know, and saying, "Look how great I am." I mean, it's Donald Trump. I mean, says how great he is. He is very good at a lot of things. There's no doubt about that. But I think he overdoes things. He overplays things so very, very much. Anyway, it's kind of sad, but I don't want to get into that. So I'm going to get ending here, get very soon. So these No Kings protest march, I guess there's 2,700 protests throughout within the United States, in different cities and all that. One's actually in London. There's one. But they can't call it the No Kings. And you know how they have their problem right now that's getting worse and worse about your, what do you call it, your freedom of speech and freedom of the press and all that in Great Britain. You know, you can't even press the like button on things that you like, because you might get arrested and put in jail for that. And, you know, posting something on your cell phone to your friends makes you wonder. In other words, they're spying on you. They're spying on everybody's posts and crap. My God, what a place. I'll tell you what, the UK What a hole that place is coming in. Maybe Donald Trump can call it his S-hole again. I mean, those S-hole countries. Probably number one on the list is getting to be the UK. Boy, oh boy. So, but anyway, if Donald Trump oversteps his, like bombing these boats and things like that, no due process, nothing like that, just killing people. I mean, what's the difference between him and Obama, who was doing these drone strikes on children playing soccer and weddings? He was doing it all the time, and then he made jokes about it. At least Donald Trump isn't making jokes about bombing these fishermen. It's a very nasty stuff. Biden is not such a nice guy either. Look at the crap he was doing. You can get into Biden's stuff too. They're just nasty. All these presidents are. Look at Clinton. Clinton did some really nasty stuff. He bombed the biggest bomb shelter in Baghdad during a time of peace, during the no-fly time. It was no-fly zone over Iraq, and they had airplanes flying over. The sirens went off. People went into this bomb shelter. Zero military, and killed them all. Way over 3,000 people. He killed all of them. Bill Clinton, at least the military did. There was no military there. Everybody was killed. That was not even mentioned very much in the global press. I'm not sure what year that was, but you can find that, I believe. You got to look really hard. There's a book. Let me think. It was written even in a book called I think the War on Terror, the Global War on Terror, or something like that. And that's a long time ago. But it exists. Anyway, maybe I can find out what the book title is. Oh, there was another time I was telling you guys about a book. A lot of the drug trade and weapons trade and things that were going on in the Caribbean. From Israel sending weapons to the Contras and things like that in Central America. And I remember the name of the book. It was Hidden Agendas. But now I remember the reporter. The Pulitzer Prize winner was John Pilger, and I think he's originally from Australia. He died some years ago. I don't know. When was that? Maybe like 5 years ago or something like that. Anyhow, I mentioned that book, Hidden Agendas, a couple of times, and I just forgot the name of the author. Okay. So, what else here? Somebody had some a video, and at this No Kings, here some people they're carrying Ukrainian flags, and everybody is talking about how ironic that was. You have here Zelensky, who banned and destroyed the church. He's banned political parties. He took over the entire media. He's grabbing people off the streets, and especially in the places where they're mostly ethnically Russians, and throwing them to be killed as cannon fodder in the war, and yet they're waving Ukrainian flags, in this No Kings thing. I'll tell you, even after all of this, you see how nasty this stuff is going. How nasty and all these Nazis and things are. It makes me wonder if they're gonna get rid of the Ukrainian flag altogether. It's probably more of a symbol of Nazism, another symbol. I mean, I kind of see it that way. Whenever I see the Ukrainian flag, a bunch of woke, crazy Nazis, that's what I feel when I see it. Terrible. The people of Ukraine actually deserve better than that. A lot of them aren't brainwashed Nazis, and they have to get put up with maybe a bad image. I wouldn't like that at all. So what else? What else did he do? He just a few days ago, he basically fired. How can you fire a voted official? Is that democracy? It's kind of like what they did in what the European Union did in Romania and Moldova. If democracy doesn't go the way they want, they just nullify democracy. They got rid of the mayor of Odessa. Zelensky did. No Kings. Did Trump do that? Did Trump get rid of a mayor? He might badmouth them. Trump badmouths a lot of people, but he doesn't fire any mayors. I'm sure there's a lot of them he really hates. So anyway, Zelensky also he owns the media as well, but Yeah, I think that's all I have to put out. But so there's a lot of stuff, developing stories, things going on right now. What's going on in Gaza? You gotta wonder. I don't know if that's gonna be ending very, very soon. Hamas, they've pretty much given everything up. They're, very much as an act of good faith, but also to probably try to save the people of Gaza. They probably gave everything up in order to save them, and believing that maybe Donald Trump stepping in, that this is actually going to work, that actually peace can, and maybe a better life for the people in Gaza can be restored. But that's obviously not going to happen. Israel is, they got a lot of weapons. They want that territory. They want to get rid of those people. Yes, ethnic cleansing. At the very least, ethnic cleansing, if not genocide, anything. It's terrible. And they're not going to give up until they have that. They've been doing this for so long. You think, what is it going to stop in signing some little peace agreement for in one day? That's not going to happen. So, and then the stuff in Ukraine, a lot of people are saying that's not going to work either. I don't know. I think it was it Scott Ritter? He says that he really has hope this time. A lot of people are saying for a lot of reasons that it can't happen, because if Zelensky signs anything, which you can say 99.9% chance he's not going to, but if he did, nobody will support him. His regime is gone completely in Ukraine. I don't know. Is there going to be any kind of a message given to Donald Trump that he can, or even to, it has to come from actually Donald Trump, to save this peace process? I don't know. I don't think so. Anyway, so none of these two big peace initiatives look like they're going to work. So I'm just saying. And but I don't know. There's hope. There's hope still for this one in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia. There's some hope. I don't think it's going to happen in Palestine, but we can just keep our fingers crossed. But time will tell. Time will tell, everybody. So anyway, have a good Sunday. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.